Welcome back to the Royal Buzz podcast, where legacy meets leadership and purpose meets the crown. Your go-to podcast that's buzzworthy and dedicated to purpose-driven leadership, legacy, and authority-driven storytelling. Where Hive meets hype, listen to the magic, one story at a time. I'm your host, Trena Myers, Miss Elite United USA and Queen Bee of the Creative Agency.
What if your greatest setbacks were actually setting you up for your next level? In this powerful episode, I sit down with Alan Lazaros, CEO and founder of Next Level University, to unpack a story that will challenge the way you think about adversity, growth, and what it truly means to succeed. From experiencing the heartbreaking loss of his father at a young age to navigating major life upheavals, Alan shares how pain became his greatest teacher and how he turned those challenges into fuel for excellence in both life and business. But it was a life-altering car accident at just 26 that became his ultimate wake-up call, shifting everything. Together, we dive into the mindset shifts that changed his life, including the power of self-efficacy, the importance of a growth mindset, and the transformational triad of humility, courage, and vulnerability. By the end of this episode, you'll walk away feeling empowered to take ownership of your story, inspired to turn your pain into purpose, equipped with tools to grow mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, and reminded that true success starts from within. So if you're ready to level up, not just externally, but internally, this conversation is for you. Let's dive in. I am so excited to have our guest, Alan Lazaros, on today. He has got such an amazing story of triumph and challenges that he's been through and overcome those challenges and providing a positive outlook. So thank you so much for being here today, Alan. If you wouldn't mind telling our audience a little bit about you and your background.
First and foremost, thank you for having me.
My
And
pleasure.
thank you for the work you're doing in the world. I know I know the amount of work it takes to podcast. It's a lot more than I think people think.
Right.
So thank you for having me. I don't take it lightly to be here. For anyone who is listening, I always open anything I do with this. I believe so strongly that what you allow into your mind, into your brain, what you pay attention to is absolutely dictating a large portion of your future. So I don't take it lightly to be here. Thank you so much for having me. And as for a little bit about myself, I'll talk about where I am now, and then we can go into my story if that's where you want to go. But
Absolutely.
essentially, so I am the CEO and founder of Next Level University. It's a company and a podcast. It's a podcast we just surpassed 2,300 episodes not long ago.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. We've been doing it for 9 years now. So in March will be 9 years.
Nice.
And now I lead a team of 24 individuals from all over the world. And we have 126 paying clients now. We produce 86 podcasts. That's why I mentioned I know how much work it is. And it started out as a mission to my first company. It was called Alan Lazaros LLC, what you'll never learn in school but desperately need to know. It was all about self-improvement, personal development, and personal growth. And I wanted to sort of bring personal development to the masses, so to speak. And now I am doing that through all these other interesting means of producing podcasts and that kind of stuff. So thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And that's where I am now. And I leave it to you to take us where you believe is best for your listener.
Well, thank you so much. Yes, what a small feat to accomplish. That's a lot of episodes and a lot of work that definitely goes into it with editing and promotion and et cetera. And now you're managing a team. So kudos. I can't wait to dive in a little bit deeper here shortly. And you could tell us more about your business and how you got to that place. But it all started a lot longer than just recently. It sounds like your trajectory started at a much younger age, and you had a huge impact in your life with your father passing at the age of 2. And
Yeah.
then you almost had that same experience at the age of 26.
Mhm.
So tell us a little bit about how those life experiences, those challenges brought you to where you are today.
Yeah, so again, in hindsight, this is very clear. At the time, definitely not. So 3 things. I'm 37 now, and in hindsight, I sort of rewatch the movie of my own life every year. I do it more than every year. I'm constantly reassessing my past, and there's that great quote where when you read a book for the second time and you notice something in it, it's not the book that changed, it's you that
Right.
changed. And
Yes.
so I'm always sort of I call myself Alan version 3.7. I'm a computer engineer, so I think of when I was born, I think of myself as the iPhone 1, and now I'm the iPhone 3.
Sure. That's great.
And what was once a revolutionary breakthrough is now hot garbage compared to what we have now in tech. So I think it's a good metaphor. But yeah, so 3 things that changed my life most, although a lot of things shape us. These are the 3 that jump off the page. So the first one you already mentioned, 91. I was almost 3 years old. My sister was just about to be 6. My mom was 31. She was a stay-at-home mom. My dad was on the road. He was in sales, and he suddenly and tragically died in a car accident, kind of out of nowhere.
Mm,
And that was very, very hard on my family, more on my mom and sister, obviously, because I was young. But
sure.
that was the first challenge of my life. Now, I had a stepfather from 1992 to the early 2000s. So I was 2 when my birth father died. So my birth father was John McCorkle. I'm blonde-haired and blue-eyed, and Lazarus is a very Greek last name. So a lot of people who are Greek, they look at me and they go, "Lazarus? I don't understand." And so my birth father was John McCorkle. He was part of a big Irish Catholic family, born and raised in Massachusetts. It was Jim, Joe, John, Jane, Joan, Jeanette,
Huh?
all J. So when we were the Lazaruses, I took my stepfather's last name, I think around age 7 or so. But so from 1992 to the early 2000s, I was 2, so from 3 to 14, basically, my stepfather was around, Steve Lazarus. And I playfully refer to that part of my life as boats and BS. And the reason why is because it was the dot-com era in the US,
Yeah.
Massachusetts, and he worked for a company called AGFA, AGFA. They did hospital computers during the dot-com era when everything was being digitized.
Hmm.
So we did very well, and a lot of people did in the dot-com bubble. And so from the outside looking in, it was boats and ski trips and Ducati motorcycle and snowmobiles, and we had a lake, and we did very well. But from the inside out, my mom and stepdad did not get along, and that's a polite way to put it.
Hmm.
And so my stepfather finally left when I was 14. I was a freshman in high school, about to go into freshman. So he left, and he took his entire extended family with him, and he also took 95% of the income with him. So I went from sort of boats and ski trips to I get free lunch at school now because our income is so low. My mom trades in her BMW for a little Honda Civic. We don't have cable. By no means are we going to starve, but I went from I hope I get into my dream college. My dream college was WPI, Worcester Polytechnic Institute. It's kind of like a mini MIT in Massachusetts.
Okay.
It's an engineering school, one of the most prestigious engineering schools in the world. And it was 50 grand a year. And this is back then.
Wow.
So I went from I hope I get in to even if I do get in, I can't go because we can't afford it.
Right.
And so that was the hardest year of my life in hindsight. And there's 3 main reasons why. Number 1, my stepdad, when he left, so he got the yacht and the apartment building. We got the house and the dog. And I have never seen or spoken to him or a single member of his entire extended family since.
Wow.
So I talked to him on Facebook Messenger digitally a little bit in my 20s and then a little bit more in my 30s, but I've never seen the man. Same year, sister moves out with her older boyfriend. Same year, my mom gets in a fight with my Aunt Sandy, her sister, and we get sort of ostracized from that side of the family too. To this day, I've only seen or spoken to 2 human beings from my mom's side. And now remember too, we don't really associate much with the McCorkles because we're trying to be quote unquote the Lazarus's. So I kind of lost 3 families by the time I was 14.
Wow.
We reconnected with the McCorkles a bit, but I looked just like my dad. So it was kind of a ghost of Christmas past type of thing.
Sure.
And so it was never really the same. And so I didn't realize this until later as an adult, but I had an atrociously challenging childhood. Like really, really bad. There's something called an ACE score, adverse childhood experiences. And I didn't realize how I got a therapist in my 30s and I started to really unpack a lot of this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, whoa, I cannot believe I made it to where I am. This is
Right.
interesting. So in hindsight, it's very clear why. And this is kind of why I mentioned all this. At 14, when all that happened, this wasn't conscious, but fortunately I had what's known as self-efficacy, a lot of self-belief.
Mm-hmm.
So I had 2 trauma responses. So the 4 trauma responses that are pretty well known are fight, flight, freeze, and fawn.
Right.
And I think we all have to live in 2 worlds. We live in the social world and we live in the real world. The social world is the wedding photos. The real world is the actual marriage. The social world is your Instagram account. The real world is how you feel when you wake up in the morning. And so in the social world, my trauma response was fawn. It was appease, 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 fit in, fit in, fit in. Don't lose any more friends and family. Don't lose any more friends and family. Don't lose any more friends and family. But behind the scenes, when no one was watching, it was aim higher, work harder, get smarter. It was drive like you wouldn't believe. And I just became this super achiever dude who got straight A's in high school, got all the scholarships and financial aid I possibly could. I got what's known as the President's Award signed by George W. Bush. It's behind me. And I got tons of help to go to school. I got financial aid and scholarships, and I was able to go to WPI. I graduated with high distinction, computer engineering. Then I got my master's in business, and then I was off to the races. And then it was tech company, tech company, tech company. I basically became a global 1% earner in my early 20s.
Wow.
When my stepdad left, he took most of the income. So I was used to going without. So I didn't need much. I didn't have a mortgage. I didn't have any kids. My rent was $500 a month. I bought a $5,000 car because I don't ever buy depreciating assets. And I just invested all my money in stocks that made sense to me to do, particularly in tech. I had 150 grand in Vanguard. I paid off 84 grand worth of college debt in a single year. I now realize, having coached people all over the world at 37, how weird this is.
Yeah, because that's not the norm.
That's not the norm. But at the time, I just didn't know any different. And so I did the traditional path. I did preschool, kindergarten, elementary school, middle school, high school, college, corporate, and I crushed it. In my early 20s, I work for a company called Cognex. I'm making almost $200,000 a year at this point. And I am the outside sales engineer for Vermont, Connecticut, and Western Massachusetts. I have my own territory. I sell industrial automation equipment into manufacturing facilities all across that territory. Big companies like GE, Frito-Lay, Covidien. It's just interesting. In hindsight, it was, I was young and
experience the lifestyle that most 20-year-olds would not.
yes. And so their motto at Cognex was work hard, play hard. And I used to say work hard, play harder.
Mm-hmm.
My mom and stepdad loved to party, so I grew up with that. And so this is when my whole life shifted, though. I had all the success that I thought would be great, and it was. I had high school friends and college friends and corporate friends, and I brought my high school friends to college friends to corporate. I had this thriving social life, but inside I wasn't very fulfilled.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'm 26, and I get in a head-on collision, my fault. I crossed the double yellows dark winter night back in 2015, and it was 30 miles an hour, both cars completely totaled. I hit a lift-kitted pickup truck. And essentially that was my wake-up call, where fortunately no one was killed, because it was definitely not a fender bender. This was intense. Both cars totaled.
Sure.
And fortunately no one was killed, and there was no permanent damage, because that would have been my fault. But I'm 26 at the time. My dad died in a car at 28. So this is the second chance my dad never got. So for me, that was 11 years ago. And that was okay, Alan, it is time to turn it all around. And yeah, you're successful, but you're miserable.
Mm-hmm.
You drink too much and too often. You're not taking your health and fitness seriously. And that's when I just fell in love with personal development, self-improvement, and personal growth. And I mean, just dialed that up to 12 out of 10. And that's 11 years ago. And to say that I've put it all on the court since then, because that was my biggest regret. My biggest regret was okay, yeah, I was talented. Yeah, I did well. Yeah, I was, successful. But the truth is, none of that stuff was that hard for me. A lot of people don't talk about this because it's very scary socially to talk about. It takes a lot of courage to share this.
Mhm.
But if you're out there and you feel gifted, everything comes fairly easy to you. So you don't have to try that hard. And I definitely rested on talent. And to me, I promised myself 11 years ago, Alan Lazaros, you will never again, ever squander your full potential. And so I made a promise to myself to reach my full potential that day and to help others do the same. And I started a little company, as I mentioned, Alan Lazaros LLC, what you'll never learn in school, but desperately need to know. And
Mhm.
that was the beginning of where I am now, which is Next Level University, level up your life, love, health, and wealth, self-improvement, personal growth, and personal development in your pocket from anywhere on the planet every single day, completely free. And it's been a wild ride. And what I will say is that's still what I do today. I coach, I train and I podcast, and I coach business owners, 25 of them from all over the world and hundreds over the years. But ultimately, it's still that same thing is helping people reach their full potential because very few people can look themselves in the mirror and say, I gave all I had. I did all I could with all I had. And
Right.
I have been there and I will never be there again.
And, most 20-year-olds are not going to think. I mean, granted, you had that life changing experience to kind of wake you up. However, there's other 20-year-olds who've had life changing experiences and still to change that mindset, to focus inward, to get, whether it's therapy or personal growth, to invest in yourself, that doesn't typically happen to most 20-year-olds. I know I was in my 40s before I realized what mindset was and to invest in myself. So, what was that pivotal moment to know that that was what you needed to focus on?
Well, I think the first thing is I got really, really, really humbled. And I have this triad of transformation that I'm an engineer, so everything's a triad or a formula.
Hmm.
And so there's the fire triangle that I didn't invent this, but you need oxygen, fuel, and heat to create fire. I took a fire protection course back in engineering school, and I learned that. And the triad of transformation is I think you need humility, courage, and vulnerability to transform as a person.
Mm.
And I think that the car accident for me was the ultimate humble pie that kind of the deep, dark holes we find ourselves in. I always say that the tools and skills and the grit that we need to climb out of them also build skyscrapers. And what I mean by that is you're absolutely right. I coach people now. I've coached hundreds, as I mentioned, and it is unique. And it's like, why did I wake up? Why did I get off autopilot? Why do some people lose a loved one and then never be the same after that for the better, and other people never be the same for the worse?
Hmm.
Because I had an uncle, Joe, who after my birth father's death, he never was able to climb out of alcoholism, and he actually died not that long ago. And everyone said that after my dad's death, Joe was never the same. And so what makes the difference, right? What is it that makes the difference between, because a lot of people suffer, but not everyone climbs out of that suffering and
Right.
gets to that metaphorical next level. And I've asked myself this question over and over and over again, because I came from a very challenging upbringing, as I mentioned. And there's certain people in my upbringing that these events didn't shift them. They didn't their response was not aim higher, work harder, get smarter. And I figured out why, and I want to give the clinical definition and then I'll give the sort of philosophical one. So
Okay.
the clinical definition is self-efficacy. It's a belief in one's own ability to transform.
Hmm.
This is the growth mindset versus fixed mindset. This is the belief in your own ability to achieve something externally. Because people always say, Alan, how did you know that being a podcast, like you'd be a successful podcaster? Like, how did you get through the self-doubt? And as scary as this is to share, I never really doubted whether or not I could.
Hmm.
And now that I've coached so many people, I realize that not everyone's doing this, but I've always had this ability. They hooked people up to an fMRI machine in a study, and they asked people to envision their future. And some people could only envision a stranger. And so I do this with clients. I have them close their eyes and I say, okay, picture yourself in a day. Okay, now a week. now a month, now a quarter, now a year, now a decade, now at the end of your life. And some people it gets blurry very quick. For others, it doesn't get blurry. I mean, I know exactly what I want when I'm 47, 57. Even when I was a kid, I said my career wouldn't even start till I was in my 50s. So I don't know how to explain that other than what psychologists call projection, the ability to anticipate outcomes in advance. Like I'm taking a course right now that's about enterprise building that I told my business partner, Kevin, like we won't even need some of this for another decade or two. And so this whole future orientation time perspective, like some people really do think about legacy and they really do think
Sure.
about 200 years from now and they think about their kids' kids and their kids' kids' kids. And not just metaphorically, but in terms of reverse engineering an actual finish line.
Right.
And the people who can think super long term like that have this huge advantage. And they don't know that other people don't have it because everyone
Right.
acts like they can, especially when you're around someone like that, right? So people always say, how did you know you'd make it? And it's like, I just calculated it.
Yeah.
And, Kevin used to say, like, how did you know we'd make it? I said, you can't help that many people for that long, that well, without eventually being successful. And that was the best way I
That's
could
very
describe it.
true.
But basically what it comes down to is you completely reverse engineer pretty much everything. And so the answer to this question is if you have high self-efficacy and you have an identity of someone who can persevere, you actually will grow from challenges and adversity. If you don't, you will escape. So the difference between virtue and vice is virtue is I'm going to aim higher, work harder, get smarter. I'm going
Mhm.
to take this adversity and turn it into something bigger and better versus I'm going to escape it. Because basically feedback, aka humble pie, if you don't believe in yourself is just pain. If you do believe in yourself, you can take the feedback and then growth mindset and then go get better and that kind of thing. And so I think self-belief and self-efficacy is the most important part of the human condition. And then after that, I would say it's the people you surround yourself with.
Absolutely. Did you have this same mindset prior to your accident, or did this become clearer after your accident?
So the mindset was the same, but the shift was there. So my mindset unconsciously, without knowing it, like I always had a growth mindset, but didn't know it.
Mhm.
And then I learned about growth versus fixed mindset and all that kind of stuff. And then I realized, oh, okay, I do have a growth mindset. Here's the difference though. I used to focus on skill development and external results and the economy. So there's three things we all have to master, I think. You have to master understanding of yourself, others, and the world. So one of them is self-awareness. One of them is others awareness and psychology and sociology and this study of human behavior and physiology and
Right.
psychology. And then the third one is the world. Like you need to know the economy and the different types of government and private versus nonprofit versus
Right.
charity. Like you have to know the chess game. And so we all have one that's really good and it's very natural for us. We all have one that's really bad. And then we have one that's decent. So mine growing up was always external. So I had so much trauma and pain inside that I would like seek externals, play pro gaming and snowboarding and basketball and mastery and academics. And
Right.
so I learned the whole global economy as a young kid, especially tech. And I built my first computer at 12 and all that kind of stuff. So I had my own little e-marketplace for a video game called Diablo 2 where I was selling items online. And so way before, I mean, I was mining for Bitcoin with my dorm mates in 2007, 2008
Wow.
as a freshman in college. Yeah. So I was like the nerdiest of the nerds and I was with all the nerds. But
Yeah.
I didn't know what that, like, we didn't understand that we were at the epicenter of the future of cryptocurrency, right?
Right.
We were just being nerds.
Yeah.
So my long answer to your short question is I was really good at understanding the external chess game and thinking 12, 15 moves ahead. What I wasn't good at was self-awareness. That's why therapy, I always say if you want a coach, you probably need a therapist because I
Mhm.
had dozens of coaches and mentors, but I needed a therapist. And if
Mhm.
you want a therapist, you probably need a coach because external success matters too. And so I think all of us are really good at one of those three, and we need to fill in the gaps and mitigate the other ones. Like for me, math and science came easy. I call it STEMBIF: science, technology, engineering, mathematics, business, and finance. All of that is just like easy peasy, lemon squeezy. It always came naturally. And yeah, it was obviously challenging, but not nearly as challenging as other stuff.
Right.
What was hard for me was facing my past and going inward, and that kind of stuff was very hard for me. And so after the
Mm.
car accident, that's what shifted is I focused inward instead of outward, and then that
Mhm.
amplified everything.
And I think that's common. A lot of us, we wanna stay away from looking in. Really, a lot of people put the blame on others, put the scapegoat on things or whatever the case may be, instead of reflecting in and digging a little bit deeper so that you can find your whole self.
Yeah. It's the I've met people that do the inner work and they're these wonderful, heart-driven, soulful, wonderful people, and sometimes they're terrible in the economy and they're not very successful. And then I've met these absolute dinguses that are just wildly wealthy, but they don't know themselves and they still play video games while their wife cooks, right? So
Yeah.
to me, you got to be righty and lefty, and it all starts with the acceptance of which one you are. I think all of us are either really good at success or really good at relationships. Very rarely are we both because it's IQ, EQ, it's righty,
Mhm.
lefty. It's
Right, right.
typically, and women, I think, tend to be better at the inner world and men tend to focus on the external world. I think women are more
Sure.
humble and more extraordinary holistically. That's what I've found over time,
Mhm.
despite the insane, like, adversity that they've had to face. But I do think that we all have a tendency. My tendency is to go outward and study the economy.
Mhm.
I think some people's tendency is to go inward and reflect. That's great, but you also better know the economy.
Right. It's it's like the Johari window. It's important to be able to look at all different aspects, and look from different perspectives and then make those shifts as needed.
Yeah.
So, your current business, the Next Level Universe, what do you teach individuals who are interested in taking that next level and investing in themselves?
So I spent a lot of time in a couple different industries and they kind of blew my mind a bit and I'll explain. And I tend to be an existentialist and an existentialist is someone who is always questioning life. Like why are most marriages miserable? Where I grew up, I playfully refer to it as the Boulevard of Broken Dreams. And the
If you
reason
saw my
why
Google search,
yeah,
we would probably be right in alignment with each other.
when I was a kid, I was like, this looks awful. Your lives look terrible to me.
Mhm.
And I was just this really sort of smart existential kid who like looked around and saw these adults that were wildly unhappy. And I remember I thought to myself, like, there's gotta be a better way. You're all going to jobs you hate. You all live for the weekend. You party too much and too often. You don't even like each other, never mind love each other. You don't even sleep in the same room. You're always fighting. Now, I obviously realized that that was a sample set that was the law of attraction working for the wrong reasons, right?
Sure.
But then I went to WPI and then I got into some of these tech companies and I started to realize, okay, so there's other walks of life that actually are conscientious and disciplined and respectful and kind. And that was really big for me, where I grew up around a lot of, let's say, people without big goals, people without a lot of necessity to become more, people without a lot of self belief.
Mhm.
And so the reason I say all that is this is kind of what came to fruition for me, particularly in my 20s, because I think 0 to 10, you're a kid, you're just figuring it out. Hopefully you're surviving and kind of learning some social skills. 10 to 20, you are basically figuring out who you are and what makes you different in the world and exploring men, women, the whole thing, figuring out where you fit in the whole game of life. Then your 20s is just like career. You got to figure out what the hell you're here to do
Right.
and what work you're going to serve in the world and different industries, and you should hopefully be learning up a storm. Like in your 20s you should be just learning up a storm, and by your 30s hopefully you have a pretty good idea where you can build the bottom of your pyramid and really build that foundation strong. 40s, 50s, and 60s are just crazy if you do it right, just unbelievable if you look at study careers, and that's when real impact and legacy can be built. Most people didn't even know who Steve Jobs was till he was 50, right? So at
Right.
the end of the day, to answer your original question, what does Next Level Universe do? This is what happened for me. I went into fitness industry, I went into the corporate space, and I went into the personal development space, and I realized the people in corporate were very professionally developed, resume, cover letter, LinkedIn, but they didn't have a lot of personal development, and there wasn't much fitness. When I was in the fitness industry, there was a bunch of personal development, tons of fitness, but zero professional development. It was weird. Then I was in the personal development space, and I was like, oh my God, why isn't there more fitness in the personal development space? And where's the professional development? Resume, cover letter, LinkedIn. So I realized, okay, so there's this Venn diagram where you have to be professionally developed, you have to be personally developed, and you have to be socially developed. And if you have all three of those, you basically become this very empowered, holistic human being who really can achieve their goals and dreams and be a great leader and role model. And so that's where Next Level University was born. Is I saw these gaps in these industries, and the school system in particular didn't teach goal setting or habits or courage, humility, vulnerability, character,
Right. They didn't
communication.
do that with me when I was in
Right.
school either.
Brutal. And so
Yeah.
there's these huge gaps in awareness that we all have. And I was just insatiably curious. I've read thousands of personal development books at this point, and I just decided, and most of them I thought were actually garbage. But at the end of the day, you can curate the you can figure out this game of life. You can like, some people really do know. They know they don't know anything compared to what they could know. They know that what they don't know is limitless, but they don't wake up in the morning with uncertainty. Like, I don't wake up in the morning like, I wonder what I'm going to do today. You can figure out this chess game of life. You really can. And when you do, you become a very powerful leader that can do great things in the world. And so that's where nextleveluniverse.com was born. That's where Next Level University podcast was born, was just smarter every day, stronger every day, better every day. It's not going to be easy, but we're going to keep climbing. And it's a metaphorical mountain that gets higher as you climb it. And it's not Next Level Kevin or Next Level Alan. It's Next Level you. And Next Level you, pun intended. Now we do an episode every day. And I think ultimately Kevin and I both grew up without fathers. So I think we were kind of unconsciously trying to be the male role models we never had.
Sure.
But now it's become so much more. And I'm excited to continue to amplify the impact and see what we can achieve together.
Well, I think you're doing a great job. One last question, and then we're going to wrap this up. I've loved hearing your storytelling and your life challenges and how you've overcome them. But with all that you do, how do you stay in alignment?
Yeah, so alignment is a good word. And I think that alignment is core values and goals. And it's the person's, places, things, and ideas that are constructive for you. And that doesn't mean you always take the easy road. It actually means the opposite typically. But how do I stay in alignment? I would say I'm much more intelligent about my decision-making paradigm. I have a much clearer idea of who are my absolutely people and who are my absolutely not people. And I have a much more clear understanding of who I am and who I'm good for and why I'm here. And so I can give you I have this compass on my background. I have a couple computers here, so I can literally pull it up since we're audio only. And it says no deviation from the mean. It's a mathematical principle that basically says if you grow something by 1% every day for 365 days, that's actually way more effective than if you do, 0 and then 3 and then 0 and then 2 and then 0 and then 3. So no deviation from the mean just is the tortoise metaphor. And the mathematical principle under that is really powerful. But the compass is I, Alan. So in the center is success, and then it's health, wealth, and love through coaching, training, and podcasting. So it's a star, and a 6-pointed star, and success is in the center. So I, Alan Lazaros, help people be more successful in health, wealth, and love through the vehicles of coaching, training, and podcasting. And I don't really do much outside of that anymore because I know that that's not only the most meaningful, but also the biggest impact I can have. And particularly coaching. I always joke with Kev because Kev is a podcaster who tolerates coaching. I'm a coach who tolerates podcasting. So he's the one-to-many guy, and I'm definitely the one-to-one. It's hard for me to stay on the surface. And I think the wider net that you throw out there in your communication, the more sort of dumbed down it gets, in my opinion. That's why I was asking you who your listener is and what your promise is for your show and that kind of stuff. Because for me, I like one-to-one because the medicine that you give one patient might kill another type of thing.
Yeah.
So I love the one-to-one, and I tolerate the one-to-several and one-to-scale. He loves the one-to-scale and tolerates the one-to-several and the one-to-one. But we both do both, and I think
You
that
have a yin and a yang to your business.
exactly. So thank you again for having me. I appreciate it, and Hopefully that wasn't too long-winded for you.
No, absolutely not. I love it. I think that you had lots of great golden nuggets for our audience to take away with. Is there any last things you'd like to share before we end this episode?
Yeah, first of all, thank you again. I started with gratitude. I want to end with gratitude. And what I said at top, which was anyone watching or listening, what you're paying attention to is dictating your future. If you pay attention to nonsense, there's a lot of it on the internet. I joke with Kev. I always say, we're selling kale outside a candy store. There's a lot of horse S on the internet, like
Yeah.
a lot, more than ever, actually. And if you constantly pay attention to things that are silly and designed to get your attention, you are in some serious trouble and
Mhm.
your future will not be bright. So drink deeply from great books, great podcasts, great training courses, and make sure what you pay attention to, persons, places, things, and ideas are constructive for your future.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again, Alan. It has been a pleasure.
Thank you, Trina. I appreciate you.
My pleasure.
After hearing this powerful conversation with Alan Lazaros, we hope you realize that your story, no matter how painful it may feel, it is not the end. It's the beginning of your next level. We hope you felt empowered to take ownership of your journey, inspired to grow through what you go through, and reminded that your greatest breakthroughs often come from your hardest moments. Alan's message is clear. Transformation doesn't happen by accident. It happens through intention, through humility, courage, and vulnerability. So, as you leave this episode, ask yourself, what is one area of my life I'm ready to elevate? What story am I ready to rewrite? And most importantly, take that first step. If this episode spoke to you, be sure to share it with someone who needs this reminder today. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a moment of growth, purpose, and possibility. And if you're interested in continuing this conversation or you'd like to apply to be a guest, visit my website at creative, that's CRE, the number 8, TIVEHQ.com, where you can sign up for our newsletter for upcoming events. Thanks again for tuning in to the Royal Buzz, where you will discover inspiring stories, empowering discussions, and a whole lot of positivity. And until next time, keep dreaming, keep believing, and keep becoming your next level.